Good morning and welcome to the 42nd CALLERLAB Convention in Springfield, Missouri. Today is Tuesday, March 31st, and this is the Appealing to a Younger Crowd session. I am Justin Russell, and I'll serve as your moderator for this session, and we have two panelists. And I'm pleased to announce, well, actually, on a personal note, there was conventions where I was the only person that was probably under 40, maybe 45. So this is a really cool session, I believe, because we have two other young callers here, and they have done a lot of things in their own areas. All three of us are recording artists. We are on labels within the Square Dance activity, and both of these guys have done a tremendous job of advertising and doing videos. You can check out YouTube. They're both on there. And so I am pleased to introduce the two panelists. I served as a panelist last year, so I'm not going to be doing much of the talking. I'll just let them do most of the hard work. But right next to me is Noah Siegmann. He is from the Wisconsin area. His wife, Anna's not in here for the... but his wife Anna's here, and they have two kids, and I just found out yesterday they're expecting their third. So congratulations to him. Got to call a couple more dances now that you got to... And then to my far left is Shawn Brown. He is from the Pennsylvania area, and he is on Gold Rush. He's a recording artist there. It helps that his dad is the producer and owner. But how about one more hand for both of these guys? If you have any questions, raise your hand and we'll get that wireless mic to you. If you do use the microphone, make sure you state your name and where you're from, and we'll start with Shawn.
All right, Shawn Brown, panelist. We've been doing a lot in my area for recruiting some younger dancers. All of my clubs have pretty much over half of my clubs, over half of the dancing population of all of my clubs, individually, have a lot of youth members, and a lot of the things that we've done have been sort of, I know things that have been rattled off here for the past couple of years: modern music, modern technology, eliminating squareware, things like that. We really haven't focused on that, and we try to think outside of the box on some recruiting techniques. Now, in the past couple of years, I've realized a lot of dancers are blaming technology for the demise of square dancing, which, in my opinion, it's not that big of a deal, because we could use that. Like, we could create YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Vine pages and things like that for your clubs and federations, and you could post videos or photos of area club dances, flyers, dance reminders, or other promotional things for square dancing that most people would never, figure out. I'm the president of the Pittsburgh Area Callers and Curers Association, and we just created a website, and I think creating a website should be a priority for all clubs, all square dance clubs around the country. My pitch to my Callers Association was, to effectively promote this activity in the 21st century, we need a strong web presence. Now, since the average person spends so much time on the internet nowadays, what better place to advertise the activity? I mean, if you can get things up on the internet, up on websites and Facebook and social media, people will see it more, and people will post it, and other people, friends of those people, will see it, and we'll get a lot of. I've gotten a lot of feedback from that. Another thing is, make sure your flyers look modern. I've seen some pretty bad flyers. A lot of the ones around my area are pretty old and boring and cheesy. And if they look like that, they're really not doing their job to promote the activity. Now, if you want them to do their job, they need to look cool, have some modern artwork, and most of all, they have to be eye-catching. In all the packets, there's an example of one in the back, and here's an example of one up here. This appeals to a modern youth. Everybody that I've promoted the activity to with this flyer to say, hey, that looks really cool. I might want to try that. And we've been using those for the past 6 months, and we've gotten a lot of people out of it. Now, one of the things that a lot of people don't do, a lot of callers or dancers, one of the big things we've done is we've gone out to clubs and out in public and in bars and things like that, wearing modern Western clothes and like bolos and things like that. And a lot of the time, even last night, we went out and people were drawn to our clothing, and you know that stirs a lot of interest, more than you probably think. Now, we wear modern Western clothes a lot of the time. A lot of the stuff you see at square dance conventions is not modern Western clothes. Like the kind of stuff you see country artists wearing, like Blake Shelton and Garth Brooks and things like that. A lot of the youth like that style, and it's in a trend right now. So I think we should use that to our advantage. Now another thing is when we're out after we start interest with the clothing, we do a lot of freestyle ballroom dancing also at these clubs and things like that. And more often than not, we get a lot of square dancers out of this. We use a lot of word of mouth. After we stir the interest, people typically ask why we are dressed like that, or where we learn to dance or how we learn to dance. And this is our perfect chance to market the activity. We then tell them we're dance teachers, and we teach square dancing, ballroom dancing, and contra dancing, and all these different styles. And they're like, hey, that's really cool. And when I mention square dancing, usually the typical response is, I remember doing that in high school, and they'll start rattling off the stereotypes. One of the things I do to break these stereotypes is my smartphone. Everywhere I go, like at the national convention, you might notice I'm taking video constantly. I've released promotional videos and things like that. And the reason I do this is because it's so I can get raw footage of people actually having fun doing something that they love. These dancers come to conventions to have fun. I've seen some promotional videos and things like that here and there, and they look really contrived, and they really don't do the job that they're supposed to do. So I figured getting raw footage would rather break those stereotypes and make it easier to look more fun. I try to get footage of a younger demographic because a lot of them do like flourishes and different twirls and things like that, which makes it look really cool to the outside. You don't really notice that as a square dancer until you sit out like a tip and actually watch the youth like dancing, and you realize how cool it actually looks. And a lot of the people that I show this to really, really, really are drawn to that. And another thing, youth, if you're marketing to youth, they need to know that there's already youth within the activity. They don't want to hang out with a bunch of old people or even people their parents' age, really. You know, I'm not saying me, but, you know. I mean, if they see that there's other kids already in the activity, having fun, doing things and things like that, then they'll be a little bit more open to trying it rather than seeing, you know, older people and things like that. Then when somebody starts asking about square dancing, all I do is pull out my phone, show them a video of the whatever I take, and you know, it doesn't have to be like a promotional video or anything. Just take out the phone, show them a video that I took, and typically their view is automatically changed from whatever they thought it was to something 10 times different and cooler than they thought it was. Usually, I try to show a video of like the national convention or bigger conventions because a lot of the time they're drawn to how many squares are on the floor. They see all those different people and how many people are there, and they really enjoy that, and they think it's really cool. Now, on YouTube, you'll find a lot of different things, promotional videos and things like that for the activity. Some are better than others. A little over a year ago, I produced a video called "This is Modern Pattern Dancing" as kind of an experiment. And it created quite a buzz, actually more than I thought it was going to do. And from what I understand, it was even talked about here at CALLERLAB last year. I've got many messages, like really thanking me for this video, and I've got messages, people telling me they're going to post it all over the place. And I've seen it all over the internet by now. We need to use these promotional things, promotional videos, as much as we can, because all they can do is help. They need, we need as many things as to use it to our advantage as possible. And that's just one of the things. Now, back when the activity was in its peak years, back in the 60s and 70s, the culture had a lot to do with the popularity of the dance. Like there was disco, a lot of dancing, things like that. Today's society typically portrays dancing to be feminine and turns away most guys. Now, in my generation, I know this because I just graduated high school last year, masculinity is everything to a guy usually under 18. So that turns away a lot of people. One of the things we can capitalize on, however, I found, is a show called Dancing with the Stars. And I'm sure most of you have seen the show or different things like that. Many people I talk to who watch these shows because they want to learn how to dance, or they really enjoy it and they really want to learn or find out more about the activity and things like that. A lot of times I hear guys say to me, if Chris Jericho or Heinz Ward can do that, then I want to try that, and that looks really cool and fun. So just different things like that. Find things in the society that we can market with and use to our advantage, just like they did back in the 70s. And it might have been unintentional, but we should look for these things and try to capitalize on them. Now, what we found in our clubs, we didn't really target youth. We targeted all age groups originally. But what we found was the largest social circles are in the 14 to 29-year-old demographic. From 14 to 29, you have the largest circle of friends, and then it declines as you get older. What we found is when we get kids or youth in that age range, they come, they have a great time, they bring friends, then those friends bring friends, and everybody keeps bringing friends, so it's an endless cycle. Now, we can take people every week, which creates a big accessibility factor. And I think accessibility is a huge thing to market to the society nowadays. Accessibility, people don't want to commit to 9 months of lessons like they used to, or even 12 weeks. They don't want to commit to anything. So if they can come in week after week and come in whenever they want and learn at their own pace, that's more appealing to a modern society. So what we found, those younger dancers are the ones that are actually driving the growth of our clubs because they bring so many friends. Now, one of the last things here. Now, if your callers or dancers succeed, well, this goes into the accessibility factor. You can't tell them that they have to wait till September to come back and learn to square dance. They want to dance, so get them dancing as soon as you possibly can, because if you don't, they won't be back in September. There's countless ways you can do this. Different things, like teaching in between the tips, have a blast class, have them come out early, stagger the classes year round, so you have more than one class year round. My dad just gave a presentation yesterday on his new program. and he just wrote a book called The Definitive Guide to the Modern Pattern Dance Program. And it's just different things like this that you can do to help recruit youth. But what we found is accessibility is the biggest factor in recruiting modern youth.
Great. Just to kind of fill in with a couple of things, and then we'll hand it over to Noah. Made a lot of great points that I kind of highlighted in my stuff. I think one of the first things that you want to think about if you are going to appeal to a younger crowd is that you want the club on board. And so a couple of examples that I put out is if it's a single lady, is your club going to embrace the single lady? And then what does that mean after they graduate class? The other thing that I did, and this was we had this situation at home, is that it was a couple and they had 3 kids, and they were all girls. And so how do you work around that? And everybody talks about they want younger people in the activity, but when it's their club and it's this awkward situation where there's more ladies than guys, you would be surprised that not everybody is as welcoming. And so if you're going to take this information back to your club, I would just suggest that maybe you have a meeting and you try to all get on the same page. Shawn was talking a little bit about flyers. I have some old flyers here. A lot of it's in color. It links back to our Facebook page. It links back to our meetup.com page. It has our website on it. And so these are old, so feel free to take them at the end or take it right now. One of the ways that we reached out to the younger audiences to try to bring them into our club is in Memphis. We are in like that tri-state area of Arkansas and Mississippi, and there is a homeschool curriculum fair. And so every year 2,000 families come to this curriculum fair, and that's where they get their books that they use for the following year. And there is a long table that has everything from archery to square dancing to underwater basket weaving, and the parents just go down the line and they grab flyers as they go. And so we had, I wasn't a huge fan of the title, but they called it a hoedown for homeschoolers, and we had 4 squares of families. Some of them were 6 and 7 year olds, so obviously that wouldn't translate into probably dancing at a mainstream club. But then there were definitely families there that were more interested in following into a mainstream class. We ended up getting 3 families, and I think they had 2 kids, 3 kids. So we got a good group out of it. We've gone back a couple times. Sometimes are better than others. This hoedown for homeschoolers that we did, obviously with the younger kids, you have to do more stars, you have to do more circles, but it's still a great way to kind of reach out into the community. And I think I had one more. The other thing that I was going to say that Shawn brought up was another way to advertise is articles in the newspaper. Newspapers are begging for articles. And so I hear a lot where, well, we invited the local newspaper to come down and have a reporter take pictures. Don't worry about that. You can cut out that middleman. Take pictures yourself, write articles yourself, and just send it in. And one of the benefits of being in the Memphis area is that we have some dancers from Arkansas, we have some dancers from Mississippi. I write the same article, but at dances, I take pictures of that couple from Arkansas. I take pictures from that couple from Mississippi. And so I send it to different newspapers. I just send in a different picture with different people's names. And it all has to be is 3-4 paragraphs. If you want more information on, like, how do I write an article, what do I talk about, you can use Google. Google News, you can type in square dancing, and it will tell you every news-related article on that topic, on square dancing. And so you can kind of read some other articles. Some of them you will love, and you'll say, oh, that's what I need to talk about. That's what I need to write about. A lot of them you'll say you don't want to include. They talk about turkey in the straw or hay, and that's stuff that we don't really want to promote. So that'll give you a little bit of information that you can then write articles and send it in, and write it towards a younger crowd. So do we have any questions at this point, or we'll just turn it over to Noah? All right, take it.
Good morning. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you what we're doing in our area, and you can take it for what it is. I'm sorry? Wisconsin. Yep, southeastern Wisconsin. That's where I grew up, and actually the dancing has been running in my family for 50 years. So my grandfather was a caller. My dad was for a while. I've got two brothers here who are. And as I was thinking about this topic today, I actually don't think about this topic at home because it's not a problem. And I'm just telling you that the reason that is because we have a club right now that it's not even an official club actually, but we dance every Monday night. And what we do is we just do like the 50 call initiative that's out there. We take those 50 calls and we do lessons, and we do about 3 to 4 sets a year. So there's always another set that's going to be starting, and every Monday night you come at 6:30. The lessons are from 6:30 to 8, and we have a dance from 8 to 9:30. And you know what? A lot of the people that already know how to dance come for that dance, and because they're there, they come early and they help with the lessons too. So we have a way you can always integrate those new dancers, and they always know there's another set coming along. So they have friends like, this was a lot of fun. I've got some people that I think would want to learn this, and by the time the next lessons come around, they bring their friends. And I think with what I've seen over the past, I've been calling for 13 years. I haven't really been watching, like what we're talking about today. I never thought about when I was younger because we're just trying to figure this calling thing out. But now that I'm getting a little older, I look back at kind of what had happened and what's going on right now, and I see the times when we were growing and the times when we weren't. And ultimately, I would just like to take a little poll in this room right now. Think back to when you started dancing. Okay, when you started. Why did you start? By a show of hands, how many people in this room started because someone you knew, liked, or trusted either dragged you to a first dance or just told you, and you were friends and you trusted them enough where you actually thought, well, what the heck, we'll give it a whirl. Okay, that's like 95% of the room. And it was the same for me, because it was in my family. So my dad said, hey, you know what? I was 10. He said, we're going to teach you guys how to dance. And I said, oh, okay. I'd seen it. And we did it, and it was a natural thing for us. That's a little different from the average person. But I think that being said, what we're talking about here is great. I love the flyers. Like that, they look sharp. It's definitely an improvement. But you know what? Frankly, a flyer, even a video, I don't care how well it's produced, is not going to get, very rarely will it get someone to actually come and try it. They might say, like what you just said, it totally works. Like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. But it's not enough to compel them to come to try to actually do it. So what we're talking about is awesome, but ultimately I'm just looking at right now, where are the results? So you could send out a snazzy flyer that you could get, if you did a poll on the street, showed 100 people and 80 people said, that looks really nice, it looks like a lot of fun. That's great, but how many of those 80 people are actually coming to learn how to dance, which is what we're here talking about today? Does that make sense to you guys? So what we do, the reason we have a club, we've got about, I would say probably around 100 to 120 people in our club. And there's usually about 8 squares of those 120 every week. And they come every week. And they love it. And you know what? Every time there's a new set of lessons, they all bring a family. And a lot of them are homeschoolers. A lot of them are, families. And I'm just going back to, ultimately, that's what this activity used to be years ago, was a family activity. So mom and dad came, and they brought the kids too. And then when our society, you were talking about our culture changing, it has changed quite a bit. And kids today aren't surrounded by the same influences that they were back in, and not just friends either. We now have the world at our fingertips. And unfortunately, it's almost sometimes more interesting to be looking at that screen than it is to be skateboarding or doing something that we used to do 30 years ago, So what we found is, what it comes down to, I was here yesterday and we were talking, Tom, you were in here, we were talking about, it really comes down to relationships a lot of times, and someone you know, like, or trust brings you or tells you about it, and because you do like them, you're like, sure, we'll give it a whirl. So what we've done, I'm just going to tell you a couple things that we've done that have worked, and actually if we started doing them, it would probably continue to work. We went and did a demo at a fair, at a county fair, and I know you guys are on board with that kind of thing. you know what? I was asked to come by a different club. Their caller backed out. And you know what? Frankly, the caller they had going there, when I found out they were doing that demo, I was like, oh, boy. Because, in all due respect, he wasn't maybe the best choice to appeal to the majority of the people. And he wasn't a fun caller. He's a good caller. He just is not a lot. He's not very entertaining. Okay, I'm going to be just straight from the shoulder here with you guys. So I came in, and we're a very energetic group, and we brought 2 squares of our younger people, and we just danced for an hour. I just pretended I was calling a dance, right? And at the end of that, we had 2 women walk up to me, and we weren't even advertising. We were just doing the dance, right? I was just filling in, and the woman said, "We have been looking for a place to learn how to square dance for 2 years." And she said, "Do you teach?" I said, "Yes, we do." And she said, "I am excited." I said, "Great." She gave me her contact information. I said, "I'll let you know when our next lessons are starting." I didn't tell her that we were starting them next week because she talked to me. But she didn't need to know that, did she? But you know what's funny? Because those 2 people were there, and their kids, they sat there for the hour under the shade tree and just watched us like that. And yeah, they were homeschoolers, but guess what? A lot of the kids that we're trying to reach today don't care. And I'm just going to be frank, they probably never will. Just because of where they're at in life. They've got a lot going on. Sports, things like that. Society has changed quite a bit. Mom and dad are usually both gone working. The kids aren't going to go alone, you know. And if only one parent is there, even in the homeschooling families we have, if there's only one parent, they just kind of drop off because, you know, we're promoting it as a family activity. And so because those 2 people walked up to us, they came with about 25 to 30 qualified dancers to the next week, to the lessons. And guess what? They're still with us today. Besides maybe a couple of people, some kids that went to college, you know, that kind of thing. Other than that, they're still with us, and they are there. In our little area, we have a thriving community because of the 4 sets of lessons that we run every year. And they know, you know what? We let new dancers come for the first 3 weeks of our 10 to 12 week lesson cycle, and after that, nobody new can come, but they can wait for the next set. And because they know it's not a once a year deal, like you were saying, it's not a big deal. And then they have 6 or 7 weeks to talk it up to their friends. That's our theme, talk it up, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, you know what? As much as Twitter can be used, it's not going to bring people to your classes, all right? So they could talk it up to their friends, and if 3 families each bring a family out of the 8 or 12 that we have represented, you've got 25 new dancers. I mean, does that make sense, you guys? So the days of just a lonely couple looking for something to do and you know, trying to figure out a way they can learn how to square dance because they know so many people that do it, those days are gone. You might find some of those people here and there, but I'm just looking at reality and where we are in this world, and it's a very different world than we lived in even in the 90s. It's very different. So, you know, that's my 2 cents worth just from what I've seen and what we're doing. So my 2 brothers are actually running the club, and that's why I'm training them. So we've got about 7 callers in my area, younger guys, who are picking it up. And because we have those weekly dances, they have an opportunity to hone their skills. So I'm not the only guy. And now they're to the point where they're starting to, you know, like when you guys started calling, remember, the last thing you were thinking about was being entertaining, right? You were just reading that paper. We were all there. But now that some of us in the room, I see there's some other callers in here, you guys, we can be entertaining now, right? We can actually be fun to watch. Okay? So when you go to a dance and there's an spectator, they say, "I had so much fun watching this dance tonight." It's because the caller was having a good time. So our callers, I'm panelists, so I'm just telling you guys, our callers need to be more entertaining. We need to really focus on that more. And when I started calling, my choreography was horrible. Horrible. But guess what? My singing, and because I wanted to be an entertainer, that carried me through for the first 5 years until I actually could deliver a solid dance, all right? But guess what? People still had fun in my dances. So because of that, I learned a lot. People just want to have fun, you guys. They really do. You know, there's a place for plus, there's a place for advance and challenge, great, but not right away. And we're finding that we have a separate dance that we run just for what we call extended application, where some people want to go past the basics, and they want to learn some of the tougher stuff, you know. And we have a road where they can learn that. We teach them the rest of the mainstream at that point, if they want to. But only 20 to 30% of the people ever move forward. The other 80% are happy coming every Monday night, helping with lessons, and dancing for an hour and a half at the 50 call. Plain vanilla. I'm not kidding you. And that's all it is, on purpose. We say this dance is going to be standard, nothing crazy, but it's fun. It's fun. And the dancing we had in 1960 was not what we have today either. You could just jump in a lot of times. So that's what we're seeing in our area. Some things to keep in mind. We have to find that ultimately there's going to be no mass advertising campaign that's going to solve our problem here, okay? It's going to be someone. It's going to be a family. You know, you're younger. We can reach some people. Bring in a couple of families. I've spoken with a homeschool group before, and they said, we'd love to have you come up. And I go up there, and I'll do a demo, just like what we did. And I'll invite them to come in. They can try it out. They like it. They have fun. Even the kids who, like, you know, are standing in the corner like, yeah, you know, that we drag them in, they end up having fun anyway. So because we have to actually have someone try it before they know what it is, people don't know what they don't know. Square dancing is one of the best kept secrets that exists. Even though you can find it anywhere, you don't know how fun it is until you try it. So that's what we found. So I hope, you know, you guys can maybe pull from that. But you can talk to my brothers too if you want. That's what we're doing. And as of right now, it's working. But it's going to be grassroots. It's going to be grassroots just like it used to be. That's really all it was, right? Friends dragging friends. There's a caller in that local area, and he just called for that club every week. And he did the lessons for that club. And there was just that local area. People didn't travel a whole lot. You know, Tom and Mike, you've been here a lot longer, you know, Scott. When did people really, really start traveling long distances to go to conventions and things, like in a big way?
Mike, you know better. Hold on.
Yeah, get him a microphone.
State your name.
Mike Sikorsky, Arizona. In my opinion, the traveling really started and was most noticed at the National Convention in 1976. America sort of had this wanderlust, and RVs were becoming big enough that you could actually live in them for over 24 hours and enjoy the experience. And gas prices were low enough that people were driving distances as a lot of the big glut called the baby boomers were getting to the early retirement and were driving. That convention had over 41,000 people in attendance, the largest one in history. And to me, that's when the wanderlust traveling started.
Thanks, Mike.
My name's Jack Snyder from Cary, North Carolina. We actually started traveling right away. Our classes had calico balls, and we took our classes back and forth to each other. So we traveled right away.
Long distance or like regional?
Actually, yes, it was long distance. We were in New England area at the time, and in 1970s. So we were traveling to Massachusetts, to Connecticut, you know. So it was long distance. So not all of us were confined to one area. You know, I think the environment has changed now, though. So, you know, your point's well taken.
That's great. And you know what's funny? The vast majority of people, even today, look at the demographics of who we have square dancing. Even you guys in this room, you guys are, you know, the 2%ers, where you're going to spend the money, you're going to drive whatever it takes because you're committed to come to this. Just like the majority of people that go to conventions, it's not easy to go, is it? No, it's a hardship, but we know what's there, and we're committed to that. Most people, even in my local area, don't go to conventions. They'll go to state because they think they probably should, if it's close. But for nationals, there's a smaller, very small percentage of people that just make an effort to go to those conventions every year. So I'm not going to cater to. We don't cater to those people in our area, but that's okay because there is a place for them too. But we're focusing on that local support. It's kind of like every week they get in that shot in the arm, and they're never just on their own. Okay, there's nothing going on for a month, and then that's when you lose them.
Scott Brown from Pittsburgh. There's two really, really, really important points I want them to understand that you just drove home. Shawn had mentioned, yes, we use social media and smartphones and all those things to promote it and change stereotypes. But it's a grassroots movement. It really is. Everything Noah said has been driven by the fact that they go back and get their friends and they bring their friends back week after week, and the accessibility is what makes it work. Like he had said, the fact that they can come now, get their friends involved from that grassroots perspective is really key. The second thing that he said that really stood out was he said 20 to 25% is all that's going to move on beyond that basic list or mainstream program. We found the exact same numbers in our clubs. Only about 20 to 25% have any interest in going on to Plus. The rest are happy dancing mainstream every week. They really are.
So we got, there's several people. We got Lynn here, and then I want to say something.
Lenny Hull, General Chairman of the New England, the Nationals coming to Springfield next year in Springfield. We started dancing in '64. My mother-in-law dragged me, and that's the best thing she ever did for me. I thank her even to today. I talked to her yesterday. But anyways, we had 4 children. They all danced for the minimum of 10 years. The last one, she was 6, 7, knew how to dance, but no place to go. We started a preteen. We ended up with 56 kids that year. And we had our own dance, our own club. We traveled, like this couple here say, we're from New England, and we would have bus trips every month, and we would go to another state, and they would come back to us. But you can't, you run out of friends. You say, they're going to bring another couple. You do, and you do. And then all your friends are dancing. Now you got to start looking at your enemies to bring them, They think you're turning a nice stone, you're making nice to them. But no, we need them on the floor. It's a good process. You got a small community, and you're still at that age. And the community, the homeschooling, we're in the big cities. We don't have that opportunity. They are there. There's a lot more people going to homeschooling, and they are showing up. We did a lot of 4-H clubs. We had the Barnyard Bunch for 35 years. A lot of them are still dancing today as adults with their kids.
On the 4-H note, yeah, we'll get it to her. Something that's kind of funny. I know a caller actually from my area who got into they didn't know it was 4-H, but they were contacted by some mothers, and they said, "Can you teach us square dancing?" And they said, "Sure." So they took them through mainstream lessons, and they hung in there. 20 weeks of lessons. They were there every week, and they danced for 2 years. 60 kids. Wow. Like, that's pretty decent, right? But guess what? Today, so that was 3 years ago. Today, they're not there. And I talked to the caller. I said, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, we found out they were just looking for something to do as a 4-H activity for 2 years." So they were viewing it as, we're going to do this for 2 years, and then we're going to try something else.
That's the administrator of the 4-H's problem. Our club lasted 20 years, 4-H club.
Yeah. So if you're going to do 4-H, make sure you talk to them, make sure they understand.
My name is Claudia from Strathmore, Alberta. I just wanted to make the point, the posters and the online advertising is crucial to our image. That's marketing. How we actually get our people is through word of mouth. But it's crucial that we have great-looking posters and a modern image. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I put my bag on and it took my tag off. Barry McCombs, Calgary, Alberta, and Claudia is our current promotion chairman for the city of Calgary in our district. I'm the outgoing, retiring chairman. The one thing that I'm interested in is how do we approach the baby boomers? To me, I'm a war baby, so a younger crowd is if we can get the empty nesters and the baby boomers. And I'm interested in the experiences of other people in the audience who have worked with that particular crowd. Certainly, and also in terms of using the electronic media for that particular purpose. We've got Meetup, we're starting to work on using Twitter, and we've got a website, but particularly using those medias for that particular crowd.
Excellent question, because that's what I was going to talk about. Because I feel that a lot of people what Lynn was saying is, hey, I've asked every one of my friends, I've asked every neighbor, what's another avenue? And so one of the things that we did, one of the things they did in Florida is they passed out 2,000 door hangers. They hired this company. Apparently, there's companies that do that. They go around, and of that 2,000 door hangers, they had a couple squares show up, and they said that a square finished the class. So I don't know how much it costs to pass out 2,000 flyers. One thing to look at when you're talking about advertising is a lot of people don't want to spend money up front. And the way I always describe it at home is that if we can get them in, if we can get them through class and they are members for years, and if they start bringing their friends, over time, we're going to make our money back, and then we're going to have more left over. And it takes a while, and sometimes it's hard to get people on board with that. But I want to look at it like a marathon, and over time, how can we grow the activity and, be financially savvy? Another thing that we did was Groupon. I don't know, has everybody heard of Groupon? Is there some people? In the last panel that we were doing, I kind of ran over the numbers. This was when Groupon was first coming out. I know some people say that it's not as successful. Now there's a lot of spin-offs to Groupon, and so I don't think it is as powerful now, but it's free advertising. And so what we did was we offered a 6-week series. We ended up selling 43 Groupons. The 6-week series, we were selling it for $30. Well, with Groupon, you got to get a discount, right? That's why people buy into it. So we were selling the $30 series for $15. Of that $15, my group was getting half of it. So we were getting $750 for every one we sold, and then Groupon was taking the other $750. Does everybody follow the numbers? So anyway, so we sold 43 of them. Of the 43, 30 showed up for the first series, and of the 30, 25 of them ended up coming back every week, or they only missed 1 week. So they showed up for 5 weeks, 25 of them. And then some stragglers came along, stuff happened. We brought them into the next group that we had. But I think Groupon is a good way. Facebook. I used Google AdWords. So if you Google something on the far right, there's all these different ads. I've spent a little bit of money into it. I didn't receive very good results, and it was a real hurdle to try to understand what makes a good ad. So for me personally, I didn't have very good success with it. I dropped it and I moved on. I think there's some clubs in California that has used Google AdWord, and they've had better success, but I didn't have the time to put into it. On Facebook, you can do Facebook ads. And so a campaign that I did, I think it was $60. And what that ad does, you can generalize the search. So we put it for certain zip codes in the suburbs of Memphis. You can do the ages that you want it to go towards. So I think I picked 21 to 55. And there's some other categories that you can kind of narrow down the search. And so there's like 1 million people in the Memphis and the suburbs area. I think I narrowed it down to 50 to 60,000 people that would receive this promotion. So they go to Facebook, they sign in. At the top of the news feed is an ad. And it just looks like a regular post, but it's from my group, Top Spinners. And it just has the flyer. I ran out of the big ones, but this is like a little postcard. And then it says something to the effect, here's a little quote, you'll have more fun than you can imagine, meet friendly people, enjoy all kinds of music, burn 500 to 900 calories, and intrigue your mind all at the same time. I highly recommend it. And it's kind of a quote from one of the dancers a couple years ago. Of that, it was shared 24 times. There was like 14 comments, and I think 8 people said they showed up from the Facebook ad. 8 people for $60. You can kind of be the judge yourself whether that's a good number. I felt pretty confident. Again, I'm running the marathon. If I can get them to join the club over time, I'll definitely get the $60 back. So that's another way. We've talked about the door hangers. We have a website. I invite you to go to justin-russell.com, and it has a little bit of information there. I specifically write for non-dancers. So I don't talk about mainstream with a star tip, because they don't understand what that means. But I try to use language that's appealing to non-dancers who might want to try it. Some of the little things that I put in there is clear, concise, watch for grammar, watch for spelling. There are literally, I call it internet litter. But you'll go and you'll see club websites that have their 2009 schedule. Take the stuff off. I think it's just litter, and it makes us look like we're not up to date. So I would say that. On your website, you can link to other websites like You2 Can Dance. They have really good videos. It's a really modern-looking site. Where's the Dance is a good one, docido.com. And Darlene was saying something about music. And music, I think, is kind of a personal thing. I know Noah is a member of a bluegrass band. Is that correct? Okay. And so, obviously, he would probably flock towards more of a bluegrass feel. I've been in enough youth halls to see when a caller is just trying to do a song that they think is going to appeal to the crowd, but if it's not in their wheelhouse, if they're not enjoying it, it doesn't come across as genuine. And so while I encourage to use a newer music, modern music, stay in your wheelhouse. And so if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And, branch out, use some different things. But I think one of the things that I try to do on open houses is to use just a variety. So I try to use something in the realm of bluegrass or country, something that they'll expect. But then I try to throw in either like a beach themed or maybe like a Braveheart, like an Irish tune, just to kind of give them a variety that we're not all modern, we're not all country, but there's just going to be a little bit of everything. Did you want to say anything? And then we had one other person, and then we had Lynn. And then, if the other panelists want to hop in too.
Thank you. Wayne Weston from Texas. First of all, I want to thank the panel, all of you. You guys did great. I wanted to go back to the homeschooling things that we were talking about there. 15 years ago, I was approached by a homeschooling group to teach them a square dance class for their PE session credits. It was great. I had about 60 kids, but their parents were also there. So we were dancing like 8 squares, It was great. Today, 15 years later, some of those parents are still dancing. The kids have gone away to college and out of college, but some of them are still dancing. And I'm still doing parties at least twice a year for the same group. And, we're still getting parents that come over and say, yeah, we'd really like to do this more. And the stuff that Noah was talking about. Did I do that? No, I don't know. It's great. And I like the condensed teaching stuff that you're doing up there, the 48 or 50. I've heard some good things about that this morning. I just came from a session on that. And I think that's the way to go. But to get the people coming quicker. And the word of mouth is still the best way to get them there. But anyway.
Thank you. Len Hool, Springfield, Mass. In the early 90s, we were lucky we got $4,000. The first year, we did 30 10-second commercials on TV. Did nothing for us. The second year, we decided to go with radio. We took in a popular country western station. They did an on-site presentation. They're remote. We got 300 people to show up. Okay? And we retained 30 dancers, people from them. Every club was there in the area, showed their Halloween parties, New Year's Eve parties, camping, everything that they do socially, and it worked. People were interested, and they saw that. It's a little pricey, but you get a good bang for your buck. Oh, and I think the blasts are really important. You got to shrink these lessons down. It's crazy.
One thing I was just thinking about is another thing is like homeowners associations or church groups, if there's a camping group that you always go out with, that might be a good night to just have a dance specifically for them.
Mike Sikorsky, Arizona. I want to come back to something you said and you reiterated because you just kind of glossed over it. When you did the demonstration with the young people and the person came up to you and said, we want to learn, and then you said, we started that class because she said that. There's some quick thinking and some friendships and things like that that have to happen just like that to make that happen. And when you do something like that and you have a success like that, just my opinion, the opportunity for excellence comes in little snippets of time, and you stepped through one when you did that. That's a lot of quick thinking right there, and we all appreciate that.
Any other questions?
I want to add one more thing that I just thought of. Thanks, Mike, by the way. What we have here is an activity, right? Would you guys agree with me that, well, I know all of us in this room for sure, but the majority of the people who dance regularly have consciously made it a part of their lifestyle? It's not just a little thing we do on the side. No, actually, they're pretty serious about it. And even the people that, like we got from that fair, they come every week because they like it, and they view themselves as square dancers. It's not just like, well, we square dance. No, we're square dancers, and we dance every week at this location. And we want to retain, we want to have fun, so we're gonna come up with a name. We're gonna get badges just so they feel like they're really a part of something. But I found that people really want to be part of a movement. Like, it's not just go try out the square dancing, because that sounds really cold. Try to go try to go square dancing sometime. That's just, come to our square dance. It just sounds, there's nothing there that would attract them to want to come. But when they think there's a movement, and like in our area, there's an upswell, there is, of younger people, parents too, by the way, that come. Because of that, they walk in the doors and they feel it. So because they walk in the doors, and we purposely use a hall that just fits. Because then it's like, wow, this is a packed room. Like, if we would cut this room in half and had the same amount of people in it, you guys would not be feeling the same way you are now. You'd be like, there wasn't room for anyone in there. They were so full. That's how people are. And when you're dealing with people who are new and they don't, until we get them really wet behind the ears, we have to be, you said it really well, and we have to really be tender with them, and not in a weird way, but just treat them, welcome to our club. They have to feel really welcome, and not in a corny way either. I've seen a lot of corny stuff going on out there to try to make people feel welcome. I'm going to give you one thing that every person I've spoken to, dancer and non-dancer, who saw either on a flyer or like on a video or something, was the overkill of invitation. Absolute, it was horrible. It was such a, I felt like you were a vulture. You were being vultured if you were reading the flyer or watching the video. Come join us. It's so much fun. You'll meet great people. Like, it's true, and we need that. We need those elements, but we need to be more tactful about it. And I feel like the square dancing community as a whole, no people in particular, but as a whole, like you said, we're totally outdated. And we need to talk to people relevantly and in a way where they feel like we're just regular people. And we're not trying to be... The way we ran our clubs 30 years ago, there's no reason to do that anymore as far as how things are all operated, certain officer positions, the pomp and circumstance and the regulations and rules that were in place. I know how it is in my local caller association. There's like 5 people, 4 or 5 guys that show up every other month, right, for that meeting. We're still doing formal invitations at this meeting, and it takes like 10 minutes. And I'm like, we all know each other here. And yeah, the reason we had those regulations in place is because 30 years ago, people were breaking our doors down to get in, right? It's not that way anymore. So if we just need to be real, you guys. We need to be authentic. We need to be people. Yeah, we care, and we love the activity, and let's just express that to people and not try to pretend that it's something that it's not. This is a great activity, and it is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for me. It is for every one of you in this room. And all the new people that are with us, they're so committed to it at this point because they had fun from day one that they ain't quitting. And they're bringing people. And I know the concern is, yeah, you run out of friends. Yeah, well, you know what? The friends that you brought have friends. And if you're doing it right, they will tell someone who will tell someone. I'm sure you guys have heard of network marketing before, right? All we're doing is network marketing here. That's it. You tell a couple of friends, they all tell a couple of friends, geometric progression, and if they're having fun, there's no reason they wouldn't want to tell their friends. Am I correct? Right? The only reason you're hesitant is because you're not sure how they're going to think about it. But if you knew it was the coolest thing ever, and that your caller was awesome, and that you actually enjoyed yourself, and you wanted to go back, why wouldn't you tell someone? You know? So.
Okay, so Brian Clark from Vancouver, Canada. So I guess in our area, which is the Pacific Northwest of, I guess, the U.S. and Canada, we have a unique situation in the fact that we have an annual square dance competition that we hold. And we've had multiple youth square dance clubs in the region, going as far up as Alaska sometimes, and sometimes as far south as Oregon. And back in the old days, we had things and some clubs came from Alberta as well. But we've been having this competition now for 62 years. And it's been very successful, and it's probably the only reason we have callers in our area, and the only reason we have dancing in our area is due to this teen festival. The downside to the teen festival is the fact that we train the kids so well that they don't want to dance with the adults afterwards. They're basically mainstream and plus challenge dancers is what they are. And so they don't want to dance with the adults. And that's one of the problems that we have in the fact that we train them so well. However, there is some good news. The good news is that recently one of our dancers from the Teen Festival from years ago, she's now, I think she's around 35 or so or something like that. I can't remember how old she is. She put together a Facebook page. And on the Facebook page, she invited everybody she knew who used to dance. And they used to be teen competitors and everything else. And there's around 200 or so names on this list. And they're actively involved in this list. And all we do on this list is we announce the dances that we're going to. And what's happened is occasionally we'll have an additional 8 squares of dancers show up at a dance just because we announced it on Facebook. Sometimes it's 2 squares, sometimes it's 3 squares. But, and depending on who the caller is, they might say, oh, I really like dancing to that guy. And then, we have 8 squares of dancers just show up at a dance. And the caller's like, where the hell did this come from? But what it is we're using the social media with people who used to dance. And we're saying, hey, we're going to this mainstream dance, we're going to this plus dance. And all of a sudden, all of these people who used to dance are now back out on the floor dancing and having a great time. And because they haven't danced for years, they don't mind dancing, regular vanilla material. They're just happy being amongst friends and having a good time. And in a lot of cases, some of them are even taking their spouses and coming out to beginner classes and learning so that they can dance as well. And so this is very powerful. And if you have people in your communities where, like the 4-H club that just quit, throw those people on a Facebook page. Start inviting them to dances and see if they show up.
I'm glad you said that, Brian, because that's a way to use Facebook. You guys realize that? So by blasting out the fact that I did put, when I started my last class, I just do experiments. So I think I have maybe around 1,000 friends on Facebook. I don't know how many. And obviously not all of them are local. But out of that, I announced that my class was starting in as tactful a way as I could with a picture from the last class. So it looked like a lot of fun. And I didn't have anybody come from that, like what you experienced. But you know what's funny? What you just said, that's a perfect way. Because back in the day, before we had Facebook, what did you do when you were going to Ken Bauer when he swung through town? You called all your friends who danced, right? You said, we're going to Ken Bauer tomorrow night. You want to come? Sure. Let's go. Hop in the car. And that's where advertising comes in for people that are already dancing. It's really good.
Well, Shawn Brown. One of the things I do on Facebook is a lot of the time I have a group. It was actually one of my dancers' ideas. It's called the Square Dance Revolution, he called it. So I figured, okay, why not? And what we do is when we have people join our club isn't really a club like yours. It's more like a group that dances on Monday nights. Well, it's not, but when somebody comes and joins this group, we'll add them to this group and send out reminders of dances. Send out reminders to dances, area dances, our dances, the dances at our other groups, things like that, special dances in the area. Just a bunch of different things to advertise to add on to the existing dancers, and I have some friends on there also from the surrounding Pittsburgh area, so they get a lot of information from us, and they that builds their interest in what we're doing, and that brings them down to our places as well.
Piggybacking on what I feel like I piggybacked the whole time, but one of the things that Noah was saying that I thought was pretty relevant is when you're meeting with your group on how do we want to move forward. Do we want to even offer classes for younger people? Is there going to be a cutoff? Have that conversation that we want to be inviting, but we don't want to be desperate. And so I think the vulture thing, I've seen it before in my club. Let's hold off just a little bit. Let's not be so aggressive. I think that's important. And then the other thing is, if you're appealing to younger people, some of the things you say and maybe some of the things that you do might have to be changed a little bit. One of the things is that I never teach yellow rock. My dancers don't know what a yellow rock is. If you were a 16-year-old girl, would you want your corner who knows how old he is to yellow rock you? Would that be comfortable? That might be something to think about. I was trying to think of another one that I do differently, but just have an open thought that maybe the things that we're doing, if we were to have younger people or a different group of people, that it might come across a little differently.
Barry McCombs, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We've been talking a lot about about Facebook, and I wondered, since other people might not be going to some of the other sessions on the other social media, I have a question for the panel about some of the other names that have been mentioned of other social media. So that's one thing. The other thing is a question that I have a fear of just starting to use Facebook, is how do I get the word out about square dancing to my friends without having some of my friends who have nothing to do with square dancing because they're into old-time fiddling, and having them unfriend me as a result.
You just want to start with Shawn, and we'll kind of go down
on. Well, some of the big social media are like Facebook, Twitter. You can post things about dances there. Instagram. That's where you post pictures and things. Vine, short videos. To be honest, I'm really not big into social media. Facebook is about pretty much the only thing that I actually use on a regular basis. And that's the same for about half of my dancers as well, who are around my age. But a lot of the thing, like he said, you have to be tactful in your promotion of the activity. You don't want to come off sounding like a vulture trying to swoop in for the kill. Don't be like, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. Like,
He's trying to be tactful.
yeah.
We appreciate that.
Just spit it out.
Don't be like I said, you don't want to come off as like desperate. Desperate is the best word I can use. But that's just some of the different social medias if you're about that. Anything you need?
Yeah, absolutely. Barry, here's my answer to that. Call them. And I mean it. Because people follow people. They do not follow a product. They don't follow, an activity. They follow people, and it's how they feel about who's talking to them about it. And I've found that to be very true. And if someone actually takes the time to call you, it's probably who actually calls people anymore? Brian does. Mike, hey, yeah. It doesn't happen very often. We might shoot someone a text. That doesn't mean anything. Why do you think nobody reads their emails anymore? Because they get 8,000 a day. Because it's easy. But we're people. Where's the personal touch? How long does it take you? Tell me right now. How long would it take you to call 5 people that you're friends with to invite them to meet somebody who has really opened up a new area in your life that you're really excited about? I'm just saying. And if someone did, so instead of inviting somebody to come and try square dancing, how about invite someone to come and meet somebody who creates an evening of fun and an experience that you'll never forget. Do you see the difference in that, though? So just like there's stereotypes for everything in life, there's stereotypes for square dancing. So even though they're incorrect, they exist. Going forward with that, we don't have to change the name, but how about we get them to actually see what square dancing is, and then oh yeah, actually I like square dancing. Do you guys like square dancing, by the way? But there's stereotypes. How can that be? It's because you tried it. So in order to get people to try it, if they say, well, can you tell me a lot more, what's it all about and how does it all work? I'd say, you know what? I could try, but it's something you have to experience. Can I have a couple hours of your time on Tuesday night so I can go introduce you to Shawn? Sure. Great. I'll pick you up. There you go.
The social media question, I use Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram's my least favorite, but you just take a picture and you just throw it up there. You can put a little description if you want. I'm not a huge fan of it. I use Twitter, but it's got to be 140 characters, and I talk longer than that. But one of the things I do is I put a reason to dance, and I try to update it every week. But anyway, like a reason to dance lowers your blood pressure, improves your posture, and then it's a little trend in that then it's kind of sent out, it's been retweeted. And then the obstacle of not sounding too pushy to your non-square dance friends is that we've actually created a fan page or a group page for the Square Dance Club, and it's got like 150 members of it. And that is, I think, a good place for your warm bodies that might be interested in it but haven't done anything yet. So you would leave the people that are never going to square dance, leave them alone, but have a group that you can kind of update for the warm bodies. Len? And then we'll do Scott, and then I think we're out of time.
Len Houle from Springfield, Mass. 2 things. I call my kids, they don't answer. I text them, I get it in 30 seconds. Anyway, competition dancing, we don't have it in New England, but the last 4 national conventions have had it, and it's just get your square together, go on the floor. You got Tony Oxidine up there and Randy Page, and they're going to come in at yeah, that's him too. But we have a Randy Page back in Massachusetts, okay? So he came to mind. So anyways, the thing is this is the first year we are sending out guidelines on the square dance competition. They're going out. Everybody in the country is going to get them. You're going to have 3 months to get your square together, practice, and whatever. When you come, there'll be a there'll be a practice session on Thursday if you want to use it, okay? And then on Friday will be the actual thing, the Final Four. Well, we can't use Final Four. That's basketball. So the top whatever. And that'll be on Saturday night at closing ceremony. That'll be part of the entertainment as the Parade of States. And that'll be the final competition, and that'll be awarded the thing. And it's going to be all the judges. We're trying to get just callers as judges. So it's fair, and there's timing, and it's like 5 pages, and we're sending it in. Thank you.
All right, real quick over here, and then I think we'll be done.
Yeah, real quick. One of the things that really is helpful is text messaging. We text message everybody before our dance nights. Believe me, that really, really works. It reminds people to come on dance night. But sitting through this, listen to all three of you. The perspectives that all three of you are giving come together to form a really big picture that I think you really need to look at, because when you put it all together, you guys have the answers. You got the answers to making this work. You're absolutely 100% right.
What a perfect ending. One more hand for both the panelists. Thank you, guys.